It's Nick here for Into Boxing, and I'm delighted to be joined by Frank Smith. First of all, Frank, how are we?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Good to be back after a little period of no shows. It's good to be back here in Sheffield.
First of all, belated happy birthday. I saw you hit the big 3-0 the other week. How was the celebrations?
It's all right. But the only problem is I turned 30. I played a game of tennis the other day and my body's in agony. So I don't know if this is a sign of what's to come.
I can confirm it is, mate. I've already tipped that edge and it's not great.
Maybe I need to be living a bit healthier then moving forward and less sport.
We're here in Sheffield for Dalton Smith, Samo Mason. Just talk us through the card. Obviously, big opportunity for Dalton headlining. Obviously, in his hometown with Sheffield, so he's going to be well backed. Yeah,
100%. Look, we're glad we could bring this fight to Sheffield Arena. You know, Dalton's been pushing us for a long time to get this, to get a headline show for him. And headlining one of our NXTGen cards, sold nearly 4,000, just over 4,000 tickets. So he's going to have a huge audience in there on Saturday. And this is all part of the plan. He wants to move quickly. He's only 11 fights in, challenging for the vacant British. And then, there's nothing stopping in the next 3-4 fights. He wants to move into the big fight straight away. And you have to respect him for that. And, we've all seen what he can do and the talent he's got. First things first, focused on Saturday against Samo Mason, who's an experienced fighter, been around a long time, and but he believes he can move quickly. He's not far off that Hillsborough dream that he's been talking about for a long time.
Is that case, obviously, with that then, with the Hillsborough thing, it's going to have to be sort of the right dance partner to go with him and that. So how far do you reckon we are sort of away from that? Are we a fair few fights?
Yeah, look, I think, this sport is amazing because opportunities can arise out of nowhere. The one thing with Dalton, as I say, is he's willing to take opportunities and risks. He's not just looking for easy fights. He wants to move on quickly. So maybe that's, 18 months, 2 years away from that selling out Hillsborough, but there are discussions that have already started with them. But we're laser focused on getting him those big fights. We've invested heavily behind Dalton. We believed in him for a long time, as of STN as well, and his dad as well, Grant's. 100% behind him and believes in his ability. So I think there's lots of opportunity there.
A couple of other fights on the card. Sandy Ryan going back in with the opponent that she fought last time to try and right that wrong. Thoughts on that fight? Obviously, going straight back in, right thing to do?
Look, I think big respect to Sandy Ryan because that was her third fight against Farias. Went in there against a tough, experienced fighter and knew it was going to be a tough test as well. It wasn't like went in there and was shocked. This is a big step up for her. But seeing her today, seeing her mind, I think she's in a great place. She's trained very hard. She's laser focused since that loss. And we're not just talking about, again, a camp of 6-8 weeks. We're talking about all the way back from March when it happened. She's been thinking about how do I go back in there and right or wrong. And, this is her opportunity because rather than going back in like, I'll go and have a 6 or an 8 rounder, she's like, no, I'm going to go back in there. And I'm not far off from a world title shot if I get that win. So, you have to respect her for that.
A couple of other fights on the card. Obviously, Jordan Thompson, speaking to Jordan before, delighted to be getting another opportunity with yourselves. Big things on the horizon for Jordan if he comes through Saturday night?
Yeah, 100%. Jordan's got star potential. He's looked great, had some great knockout finishes, and that's what people want to see. He talks well, he looks the part as well. And Vasil Dukar's no joke. He's been in there against the likes of Chris Billham-Smith over in recent times, Mike Perez as well. Experienced fighters, and I think Jordan's going to learn a lot in there. But at the same time, he could go in there and do what he's done to these recent guys. He's got immense power, and I think there's a big future for him both at cruiserweight and at heavyweight as well. And looking forward to that, being on that journey.
Hopey Price is another one. I spoke to Hopey again, another one that's delighted just to be getting the opportunity. We spoke about, obviously he's got to come through Saturday night, but potential future fights, and he's mentioned the name Jack Bates, and I've just given you a massive fight in Leeds. Is that something that could potentially happen?
Yeah, look, that would be a massive fight, a massive ticket selling moment. Jack Bateson's obviously got a massive following, hasn't he? Hopey, 8 rounds, he's coming back off of injury. It was supposed to be a 10-round fight, but our focus was getting back out there. And he's looked really improved. He boxed, I think it was on the Ali Pally show last in February, and had a good performance there. He's one of those fighters who wants to step on now. He's only young at the same time, so it's about balancing out between the two. Dave Coldwell's done a great job with him as well. That's exciting. You've got Johnny Fisher's on the card as well. Sold over 1,000 or near to 1,000 tickets for this one, which is amazing to see. At Sheffield, not quite Vegas, but we'll get him there eventually. You've got Campbell Hatton back out. He's had some time away, a bit of time out away from the pressure. because it's hard for him, because even on day one everyone's thinking so much of him that if he doesn't deliver exactly to what you are, this person on social media, it's all on top. Any other fighter would have 10, 15 fights and would be able to learn the trade. He's jumping straight in there and hasn't got that opportunity. Akeem Fiaz as well, Janae Boston, Nico Leviez, Kieran Conway ahead of his Ammo Williams fight. It's a stacked card on Saturday, so looking forward to it, and some good talent on show.
Looking ahead to a couple of weeks' time, obviously Anthony Joshua goes in with Oleksandr Usyk. First of all, how is Anthony? Have you managed to catch up with him, speak to him, and or how are preparations going ahead of the fight?
Yeah, look, I was in Saudi with him the other week. He's in great shape, 100% dedicated to getting back in there and getting this win, and he has been ever since September. This is, again, it's a bit like Sandy Wright. It's not just a 6-8 week camp. This has been on his mind for that period, and he knows what he needs to go in and do. He's got the great team around him, and I think he can, from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, it's all very positive, looking in great shape, and his opportunities to go back in there and get back those belts, and I believe he will do.
Obviously the fight landed on Sky Sports box office. Looking forward to working with the Sky team again?
Yeah, look, we've had a long relationship with Sky. We've obviously got a relationship as well with the darts, that we've worked with them for a long time on. Ultimately it's business. Am I talking to them every day, saying how are you, what's going on, what are you up to? No, but we're professional people. We don't, we're not like everyone else or a lot of people in boxing. We're professionals, and we will continue to be professionals. It's interesting that it's ended up on Sky. Obviously, AJ's committed his long-term future to DAZN, and that's where you'll see his fights in the future. But this first one was on Sky Sports box office, and it's a massive fight.
Obviously, I heard you speaking in another interview about Ben Whittaker possibly on the undercard, and also the YouTuber Money Kicks, and he's making his professional debut. Thoughts on them two as professionals, really? Obviously, Ben made his debut, and that looked very good in doing so.
Yeah, look, Ben Whittaker was a great performance from what I saw. Saw some clips on social media. Didn't watch the whole fight, but it only lasted a couple of rounds. I think he was showboating in the first, and then got told to just calm down and got the stoppage. Look, he's a great an immense talent. He's got a huge career ahead of him, and this is just the start. 258, we work with very closely. Freddie Cunningham, Sully Sissoko was supposed to be on that Saudi show, so there's that slot there, the 258 slot, and speaking to Freddie daily about the possibility of Ben Whittaker going on there. So let's see how it plays out on that front. But yeah, huge career ahead of him, and shout out as well to Chris Billam-Smith on a good win in Bournemouth at the weekend. Belhassa, Money Kicks. Is it his professional debut?
I believe I've read that somewhere.
I've seen some, because he's been doing some of these influencer fights. He's a huge star out in the Middle East, Belhassa. Big following. Built that following over years, and good guy. I've met him a few times, and it's going to be interesting to see. Stacked card out there. Got 11 fights on the card in Saudi.
Staying on the YouTuber side of things, Jake Paul, Hasim Rahman obviously fell through. Fight is off. I know you're obviously not connected with that fight directly, but just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's a shame. Jake Paul's always willing to take tests. You can love him, hate him, whatever, but ultimately I think he's good for the sport. And he is stepping into something where, he's judged on day one because he's got this huge following. And rather than go, actually, do you know what, fair play to him, he wanted to fight Tommy Fury and then Hasim Rahman, the people have always got a problem with it. So he'll find it, he can never really win, but I think what he's doing is good overall for the sport.
Another fight, KSI, Alex Wassabi. I think that all roads are leading to maybe a Jake Paul KSI fight. Obviously, they've got to both come through the next fights. But yeah, thoughts on that and KSI returning to boxing?
Yeah, look, I said earlier, I think they're two different things, because obviously Jake Paul's focusing on the boxing side of things. Fighting box hasn't yet, but like Tommy Fury, Rahman, those fights are the fights he wanted. Whereas KSI is obviously looking at the likes of Alex Wassabi, another influencer, which is there's a market there for it. You can question it and say what you want, but that does huge numbers. These guys have got huge followings, so you can say, oh, it's a joke, but there is definitely a market for it, and I think it's good for boxing, because if it brings more eyeballs into the sport, that's only a positive.
Obviously, Eddie has said in the past, I think, Jake Paul, said about any fight 10 and under in your roster, and they'll fight. I mean, is that still a possibility down the line?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great for us, but let's see. You know, I don't know. They obviously make decisions. They're not going to make the wrong decisions with him. You know, and there's people there going, "Oh, maybe should you do it?" Like, I kind of thought that with the Tommy Fury one. It's like Tommy Fury has grown up with it, like, and that's been his whole life. Is that the right move to make? But they obviously believed he could beat him. But yeah, look, our guys, I'm sure they'll take on the chance at any point.
Finally, Chris Eubank Jr, Conor Benn. There's been obviously a lot of rumours, a lot of talk online. Are we getting closer and closer to that fight maybe happening?
Look, it's a massive fight, you know, something we've been discussing. There's other opportunities for Conor as well. So let's see, you know, these things, massive fights take time. So let's see how things play out.
Do you think going into that fight that Conor Benn, it's sort of a win-win for Conor because he beats Chris Eubank Jr. Obviously, there's the family rivalry from the past there, but he beats Chris Eubank Jr. Everyone goes, wow, you know, you've beat a guy from a weight class, 2 weight classes above. But if Chris Eubank Jr. comes out on top, he can always just come back down to 147, and he's still sort of on the fringe now of the world title.
Yeah, look, I think Conor Benn is in a very good position, as you say. You know, he steps up for that fight, and you've got to show him a lot of respect because he's willing to take the test. Eubank Jr. I mean, there's not tons of options for Eubank Jr. You know, like you look at Liam Smith's fighting September 3rd. Janibek's supposed to be fighting Andrade, I think. But there's not loads of options out there for him, and I think it's a perfect fight for both of them. In all honesty, I think it makes a lot of sense for both of them. It's a huge commercial fight for both of them, and yeah, let's see. I'm going to be there with my half and half flag on, and I'll just sit there very quiet, and because I don't want to get beaten up by either Conor Benn or my missus, so I'll stay quiet.
A tough night for you then on that night.
Maybe I'll hide away. Just won't turn up.
Frank Smith, thank you very much for giving Into Boxing some of your time, and hopefully catch up with you throughout fight week. Cheers.